I'm Gail Warner. I'm an interviewer with the Rodeo Historical Society. It is November 10th, and we're at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. And I am interviewing Jerry Beagley, who is going to be inducted tomorrow night in the Rodeo Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you so much.
Where were you born and when?
I was born October 2nd, 1954 in Medicine Lodge, Kansas.
And who were your parents? Give me their names, and what did they do for a living?
Otto Beagley and Evelyn Beagley. And Mom was a housewife and helped run the ranch, followed Dad around, worked harder than any of us. And Dad was managing a ranch, managed the chain ranch for 44 years.
And where was this?
In Medicine Lodge.
In Medicine Lodge, okay. Did you have brothers and sisters?
No, I'm an only child.
Oh, okay. Do you remember how old you were when you first thought about rodeo?
I don't remember not being around horses and cattle and stuff like that. I've got a picture of me sitting on a Hereford bull when I'm probably 13, 14 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's standing there beside me. And I actually, it's hard to believe, but I remember him walking up there. He was carrying me and he said, "You want to ride a bull?" And I said, "You can ride a bull?" Because I've been horses with him. And he said, "Yes."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Okay." And that's when he set me on the,
Okay.
on the bull instead of there with me.
Do you remember your first rodeo?
That I competed in or that I went and
That you competed in, yes. Uh-huh.
My first rodeo that I competed in would have been probably some kind of showdeo or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Kids
Type
competition,
stuff,
yes.
Kids competition, yes.
Okay. When did you win the first amount of money or a prize or something in rodeo?
Well, I would have been about 10 years old, probably.
10 years old.
They used to start some of the rodeos with me right after the grand entry, and when I was 6, they'd let me ride a Hereford or a Mexican steer, a bulldog steer. I remember doing that when I was 6, and when I was 7, we went to the National Finals Rodeo in 1961 in Dallas, and Dad wanted to see it before I went to California. And I remember going down there, and I remember asking Mom if she thought I would ever be good enough to ride there. And she just said yes. There was no stop, there was no nothing. And words make a big difference. I just grew up thinking that I would be able to go to the national finals if that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. You started out competing, though, as a youngster. I mean, you were Little Britches?
Little Britches. Little Britches rodeos, and then high school rodeos, and college rodeos, and then amateur rodeos.
You were the valedictorian.
Yes.
In your class at Medicine Lodge High School.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. How
Thank
many in your class?
There was about 72 or 73 of us. We actually had good teachers. We got us a good education.
Right.
In 72, when I graduated, the United States was #1 in mathematics, and I think we're 30-something now. It was a completely different system. We had a really, really good education system in Medicine Lodge, Kansas.
That's great. Where'd you go to college?
I went 2 years for Fort
Where
Hays
now?
State, Hays, Kansas.
Oh.
Fort Hays State. I skipped a year. I was going to go rodeoing. I got a card, and I was broke at that end of that year. And they were starting up the program at Southeast Oklahoma State University, and I went down there October 2nd to ride the bull riding at Ardmore. And I went in and talked to Dr. Hibbs. Roy Cooper introduced me to him. James Ward is one who brought me down there. We were friends, and I told him that I had enough money to enroll in school if he'd give me a chance to be on the rodeo team. And second semester I was on the team.
And doing what? What event?
I rode bareback horse. I'd won the championship in the bareback riding for Fort Hays State. But actually, what impressed them or made me want to be on the team or enroll me in school is I made the short go in '74 in the bareback ride, calf roping, and bull ride.
Oh.
The bareback ride.
All three?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
I placed in all three.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and you became the 1977 bull riding champ
Yes.
at the college.
At the college finals. I won the world in the bull riding for the college and won the all around at the finals.
At the finals.
I placed in the calf roping again. My bareback riding hadn't got to it. Went downhill at that time, but I was still
Is that
roping
when
good.
you started to think you rodeo seriously? When you were starting to win like that?
No, I took rodeo seriously all my whole life.
Oh, okay.
You try just as hard to win a championship in Little Britches as you do in the PRCA.
Okay.
It's the same attitude, it's just different dollars. You're just playing with different dollars. And if you don't have that try and stuff that you have in, now I know people can mature,
Mhm.
but I grew up very poor, and if I didn't win, I couldn't go. And
It was important to you.
Yes, yes. I remember driving tractors for $1.35 an hour, 13 hours a day when I was 14 years old, thinking that if I could learn how to ride, I wouldn't have to drive this tractor my whole life.
So your work ethic was pretty good.
Yes, I was raised by can-do kind of parents that came out of the Depression.
Mhm. You always, in talking with you, you're always so complimentary about your parents.
Yes. My dad was a very can-do kind of person, and my mom was mentally strong. She's the one that held the family together. Dad had the brute strength and the hard work ethic and stuff, but Mama was the one that really held everything together.
Mhm. Now, when you finished there, you started in amateur rodeos.
Yes, I knew I was going to the pros, but I knew I had to have some money. And so I rodeoed real hard in the amateurs. I went to, I think, 117 rodeos one year in the amateur rodeos, working 3 and 4 events. And I won, last year in the amateurs 74, I won 19,500 and I think 4 saddles, which was quite a bit of money back then.
Oh, yes. it
And I
was.
went 3 years later, and once I got my card in the pro, I went 3 years before I won 10,000.
One what?
Before I would win 10,000.
Oh, I see.
It was
Uh-huh.
pretty tough going a couple times.
When did you join a PRCA
I
or RCA?
filled my permit in '74 and had it in 1975.
What year did you qualify? Now you had gotten down to where it was strictly bull riding at that time, or were you still doing?
When I first got my card, I rode bareback horses and roped calves and rode bulls.
Mhm.
But I started as, it was inconvenient to call a horse. I did not rope. People didn't think I roped good enough to borrow good horses,
Mhm.
and so it was hard to get on
Yeah.
good horses. Chip Whitaker always let me ride his good horse. Larry Snyder and Bobby Blandford, he always let me ride his good horse. But a lot of times they weren't there, and I was almost like he was running around trying to beg somebody, just let me on your horse, I'm entered, you know.
When did you qualify for the first national finals?
1978.
I've got 1978. Was that? Is
Yeah,
that?
1978.
Okay.
78, 9, 80, and 82.
Okay. How'd you do? What was that experience the first year?
Oh, you're sitting there and like when you, in the grand entry, and you're sitting there thinking, I finally made it. You know, it was the biggest highlight of your life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
That year we got on 11 bulls, I rode 2 of them. It was not a good, I never did have a good finals. Unfortunately, Donnie told me, he says, you know, everybody has some rodeo you're jinxed at. You just decided to have the NFR to be the one you was jinxed at.
No,
And
that's
I remember
not good.
walking out of there in '78 at the old Coliseum in Oklahoma City, saying, well, I'll have a better finals when I get back here next year. Well, I came back the next year, runner-up to the world, right behind Donnie with a chance to winning,
Mhm.
and got wiped out the second performance. Didn't get to get on all my bulls.
You got hurt?
Yes.
Yes. Was that when the horn hit you?
Yeah, I got jerked down on his head and broke my mouth and stuff.
Oh dear.
200 and some stitches in my mouth.
Oh my heavens. 200 stitches
I
in your mouth?
In my mouth. They were there for, I remember walking into, oh, I wish I could think of his name. I will after this interview's over. But first, I got up, didn't knock me out, and I knew I was hurt. I walked out, and they grabbed me, started me in the ambulance. We got to the ambulance there in the Forum. Nobody, they was ready to go, or not the Forum, whatever the name of the building is over here. And nobody had a key to let us out. The door was locked. And I started to get up and say, I'll have Dad take me to the hospital. He was there by then. And they finally got the key and took me over there. And there was this young doctor from Edmond. He was there working that shift, and he was a plastic surgeon. And by the grace of God, and I looked at him and I said, I need a good doctor. He says, I'm the best one they got here. And I said, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he really did a good job for me. And then one other time I came down here with when they had broke my jaw, and he healed me up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Have the best one they.
Yeah, but I mean, he was straight out of college, and he just said, I'm the best they got here. And he was.
Qualified in 1980 for NFR, but you got injured in the second go-round.
Same thing, broke my ribs.
Broke your ribs. Yeah, I would say you're not doing real well in the national finals, are you? But the interesting thing that I saw in researching this is that you still tried for several go-rounds after that.
Yes.
And why?
You work all year to be there, and honestly, you need to win some money too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At that time, it wasn't quite as lucrative as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my dad, Daddy worked for the chain ranch, and we had, up there on that division, they had about 50 head of breeding bulls when we brought them all in for the winter. They didn't run them during the winter up there. And so we would go over the weekends and bring 5 bulls in, and I'd get on them. And if one of them turned back, he got to stay up close and eat grain all winter. And the others would go back, and next week we'd bring 5 more in. And before, within a month, we had some that would buck pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to bucking, and I remember asking Dad one time, I said, should I ride these bulls a little ways and then get off and so they'll get some confidence? And he says, we're making a bull rider here, not a bull. He says, you don't ever get on a bull that you don't plan on making the whistle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was just kind of the attitude,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 1982 was your last year at the national finals.
Yes.
But you didn't quit.
No, I went ahead and rodeoed after that for a little while.
Were you going closer to home? Were you working more? Or
No,
what?
I went wide open
You
until
went
I
wide
quit.
open.
I rode better in 1982 than I did in 1979. I placed 123 times
Oh, okay.
in 1982, which now that is counting like if they had day monies,
Mhm,
If you make a whistle,
Yeah.
you got they divide. So that was a day money, and then if I win the rodeo, they counted that as 2 checks.
Mhm.
But still, to get 123 checks was quite a few. And I was rodeoing with Brian Claypool before he got killed. And we were really good friends. And he says, PRCA is Professional Rodeo Cowboy. I am a professional rodeo cowboy. This is the way we make our living. We don't make a living as a veterinary or as a lawyer in rodeo weekends. So I always felt like if this was the way I was making my living, I should be getting on somewhere.
Mhm.
There's no reason not to be nodding your face. And so like in 1978, I went to 175 different rodeos. And in 1979, when I was trying to win the world, I went to 169 different rodeos that year. But I was hurt 4 times during that year that I had to lay off and stuff like that. If it hadn't have been for injuries, I mean, if.
Sure.
But the harder I tried, the more I won, and the harder you tried, the more apt you are to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's kind of
You had bull riding schools,
yes.
and tell me about that. Where'd you have them?
Well, you started, I had them all over the Midwest. After I had 3 or 4, I asked Wickpeth if he would like to have schools with me, and had become friends, and he thought that would be a good idea for him to be able to pass on some of his talent. Probably the greatest bullfighter at that time that had ever existed. And I didn't have to have a clown there to protect the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we had them both going on at the same time. So we had schools in Kansas and Bonifay, Florida, and several places like that. And then anytime I wanted to go somewhere I hadn't been, I'd figure out a way of putting on a bull riding school. I remember one time I had one at the end of my career, I had one in Florida so I could take the kids to Disneyland, or Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
Disney World.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and I had a school in Alaska for the military boys, so I could go to Alaska. I'd never been to Alaska yet. Had one in Hawaii. And
On the Big Island?
no, in Oahu.
Wow.
At a guy there that had weekly rodeos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Australia, Brazil.
Yes, had a RC Indian Reserve in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I had a school at Mohab on the Navajo, and then that's how I got to go to Brazil. And then also Australia. I was still riding when I went to Australia.
Okay.
And got on a few bulls right at the end of my career, and I put on a bull riding school.
You said something to me at an earlier time that I thought was so important. And I'm going to start it out, but I want you to say it. I knew that some of the guys that signed up would never become bull riders.
Yes, you know, and some of my friends, instructors, would just run a rank bull under them, get them out of the way, and wouldn't have to mess with them anymore. And I always felt like at that time we was charging them $200, and I tried to give every kid something for their $200, whether it be teach them how to use OAGs or how to rent cars, because it takes the same thing to win in rodeo as it does in life and business later on. And I always tried to give them something for their $200. I was talking to one kid that, I was trying to be as delicate as I could be. He was heavy, and just 2 jumps, ka-whack, 2 jumps, ka-whack. And he was way overweight. And I went up and was talking to him about how he should try to work out a little bit more, and maybe bulldogging would be a really good event for him. And he says, Mr. Jerry, he says, I know I'm never going to be a bull rider. He says, but all my friends do drugs. And he says, this is my high. This is my adrenaline rush. And so how can you criticize somebody for wanting to do that? Because what he wanted to do, and he's always said, I got on bulls,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a different perspective. And with that, I believe that your success is determined by what you set your goals as. If I set my goals to make to win an amateur association, or if I set my goals to go to the circuit finals, or if I set my goals to win the world, then each person is just as successful if he accomplishes what he set out to do.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Ted News said he asked you if he could if he could go to rodeos with you, and you let him.
Yes.
And he says because you agreed, he was able to be Rookie of the Year in bull riding.
That is correct.
What a nice thing to do.
He is, and again, some of my friends would take these young bull riders and they would break them. And when he called, he had been calling for a couple weeks wanting to go with me. They said, you need to get in the car with Beagley to get to some rodeos. He was trying to catch Joe Gaskin, which was a more seasoned bull rider because he'd come out of the IRA. Ted was still a kid, really. straight out of high school, type thing. And when he first called me, I kind of just let it go. He called me again, and I said, it cost me about $1,200 to $1,500 a week to rodeo. Is what you've got stuck out there. And I said, are you willing? He says, well, I've got, I don't know what he said, $5,000. And I said, are you willing to spend it all? Because I didn't want to take you and break you. And he said, yes, I'm willing to spend everything I got to try to win the rookie. I said, meet me in Kansas City. And so he was flying to, they were driving him in Idaho, I think is where he was. And those older bull riders he was with, they were coming across there. And they said, are you meeting him in Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri? And they said he just had a blank. He had no idea there was two Kansas Cities. Didn't know that was only one airport for both. So he was a very, very fun and positive person to rodeo with. And as you get older, it's nice to have that enthusiasm to milk off of, and he probably milked off a little bit of my experience.
Well, I think you helped each other then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. That's wonderful. I love those stories. You learned to fly airplanes when you were competing. I guess that was kind of a lot of the cowboys that could fly.
Yes. Now, I finished it up in college.
Oh, okay.
My flying program. And I knew I was never going to be a great pilot. But I learned enough that I could take off a lot of the workload. We hired a lot of pilots. And what we did back then, you would go hire somebody that had just finished his flying degree, and we would rent a plane and allow him didn't have to pay him a whole lot because he was trying to get to 200 or 300 hours so he could go on to the next level. And I could take in bad weather, I could take part of the workload off of him, or I could spot him. There's one time Lyle and I flew, in 10 days, we put 77 hours on the tack on a small plane. That's a lot of time in a small plane.
That's a lot of time in the air, yeah. Who were some of the other cowboys you traveled with? You mentioned the other pilot.
Bobby Berger, I traveled with him a little bit because he was from Kansas. I knew him from when he was from Kansas. And my dad knew his dad and that type of thing. Lyle and I grew up together. We
Lyle Sankey.
Rodeoed together. And then Teddy rodeoed his rookie year with me. When I was young, I rodeoed some with Jerome Robinson. He was he was one of my mentors. Steve Lance, one of my best friends, he rodeoed some with me. I rodeoed alone a lot. Jackie Gibbs rodeoed his rookie year with me. In fact, I probably kept Lane Frost from winning the rookie because I had already promised Jackie that he could go with me if he got his card, and Lane didn't know how to get to as many rodeos as we did.
And you mentioned before Bobby DeVecchio.
Yeah, Bobby DeVecchio went his rookie year with me.
Yeah. And they called you a mile marker. What does that mean?
That means they said all I ever saw on my eyes was mile markers going by.
You got to a lot more rodeos than most people,
Yes,
is what I understood.
Sandy Kirby, he said I'd called, after winning Cheyenne, I called my wife and I said, do we want to try to win the world? And we decided, do we want to go ahead and spend the money? Maybe fly somewhere that wasn't economical to fly to. And we decided, yes, it was worth making the effort. And that's one of the reasons I can live with not winning the world. Even though, I'd love to have been a world's champ, but I didn't leave anything on the table. And when we took out rodeo, Sandy Kirby, he was laughing. He says, Donnie can't get to as many rodeos as Beagley's going to, and Donnie has his own airplane.
Oh, there, that's funny.
But we worked one rodeo one time. In fact, the girl that's here with me tonight, we're really good friends, and she used to live in Sydney, Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
And when that rodeo went on, well, I worked Thursday, Sydney, Iowa, and she drove me to Omaha, the airport. I flew back to Montreal, Quebec, and worked that Friday, Saturday afternoon, flew to Couchtown, New Jersey Saturday night, worked it, went back to Philadelphia, flew back to Omaha. She picked me up and went back, got on my second Sunday afternoon in Sydney. Then I flew to Loveland, Colorado for Sunday night. All commercial.
Oh, my goodness. Well, they were getting to know you.
That's where I met Teddy when he was a young kid, was Phoenix. And we came in there after, I think after Prescott or something like that. And we was looking around and trying to find a place to lay down for a few hours before the 6 o'clock plane. And I seen him over there, and I went over and I said, there's a place over here behind we can lay down that there's no lights. It's kind of in a corner where there's not any, you can get some sleep.
You worked with the Justin Sports Medicine Program and J. Pat Evans.
I was really good friends with him and was there when it first started. I can't say I worked with him per se, but Walt Garrison, who we just lost, it's kind of he said, we said, she said type story. But Walt Garrison had told Roy Cooper, who told me that I was one of the instigators of the Justin Healer program. With that being said, what it meant was when they had their first pilot program at Fort Worth, the Copenhagen Skull deal, I went second. Out of 8 bulls I got on, I only got away from 2 of them without getting stepped on, hung on, or my nose broke and stuff. I went second, and when I got done, the Lord led me to go back and give 10% back to the children's hospital they were working for. And that made an impression on Walt, who immediately sold the idea to Mr. Justin, that these are the kind of people we should be working with. And I don't know if that was, but that's what Roy told me.
Well, it took a lot, because rodeo cowboys didn't want to go to a hospital or go, you know, they didn't,
No.
you didn't do it unless you had to.
Exactly.
And I interviewed Dr. Evans after he had turned it over to Tandy Freeman, and he said that he got Donnie to come in for something, some help physically.
Yeah.
And said, Donnie, will you do that, even though he might not need it? He needed somebody to,
Come
for
in
the
and
other
say it's
cowboys
okay.
to see, go in and do that.
Well, I went to the finals in 78, my first year. They started in 79.
Okay.
You take like bareback riders, for instance. In 78, they would get off their horse and they would go back. One of them being inducted, I remember seeing him, JC. First thing he did after he got off his horse was had a drink of whiskey and put it back in the rigging bag. After they come in here to help us in 79, the first thing they did, got off their bareback horse, they run and put their hand in ice, keep it from swelling. It changed the whole attitude. And from that, the pros started doing it. They started putting programs into high school rodeo, college rodeo, and it developed the idea of that we are athletes, that we have to take care of ourselves to reach our maximum potential. I had one time I was getting on with a broken ankle that had been broke, and then I had a bull that run down the chute and twisted the other one, twisted really bad. And so I was taping from below my knee down on both legs. And it was ironic, it was stupid looking back on it. But I mean, I had a wife and I had a family, you know, I had to make a living. And it was one of the years actually I went ahead and made the finals. But I couldn't climb up the chutes after I was taped up. They had to help me up. I could make the whistle. But then the poor clowns, I just turned loose, and the poor clowns had to pick me up and carry me out of there, you know. And that puts a lot of pressure on them because they don't want to, it's not good to get an NFR cowboy run over, you know.
That's going a little beyond.
Yeah.
Since you retired from competition, what do you do now, Jerry?
Well, I started a manufacturing business actually in college, making head stalls and reins and things like that. And then 5 years later in '78, I started a wholesale company and went to the market in Denver, joined WESA, Western English Sales Association. I think there's only 6 people that have been in it longer now than I have. Like I've been in 45 years now.
Now,
And
the first business you started was braiding.
yes, that's braiding.
Braiding the,
Reins and stuff like that.
Reins
And that's what we still do. That's my braiding company.
okay. Tell me about Martha Josie.
Okay. Martha Josie in 1977, my first wife was a barrel racer, and she went to one of her schools in Hutchinson, Kansas. And I'd come back from Odessa and went up to watch my wife at the school, and I seen that they'd sold a little tack. And it's interesting because I said, I wonder, I should go shore some of the stuff that I make. And of course, my wife didn't think I would be able to make anything for Martha.
Mm-hmm.
And Martha, as you know, is just as easy a person to talk to, down to earth as anybody in the whole world.
Sure.
And we started working there. I've made products for her since 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1980, I made the knotted barrel rein, which has been copied. She won the world with it. And I've also had a hat string that we patented with a Lexan tab that you can put in, take it in and out, used mostly for barrel racing. And then when I won Cheyenne in '79 and was runner-up, I had enough money to either buy an airplane or make a down payment on a ranch. And that's what we did. We made a down payment on a place. And thank goodness that's what I done, because I was broke the next year. I would have ended up with a worn out airplane and no home. And then I run cattle on that also now.
Now, you sell to over 200 retail establishments.
That is correct.
All over the world.
Yes. In my opinion, I probably go to more stores than anybody else in a year's time, because most salesmen work 1 or 2 states. And I sell my product. I don't have any salesmen, and I go to 32 states once or twice a year, and go to their store and stop and sell them.
And I know that that's the way they used to do it. They would hire cowboys that had retired, and George Doak was one of them, and
Yes.
had his RV and went to places and got orders and what have you, but that kind of became obsolete after a while.
With the internet and everything, the thing I do different that makes my deal still work is I put $250,000 in a trailer, and they buy right off the trailer when I'm there.
Okay.
And with the freight the way it is and stuff like that, and they get used to me coming around.
Well,
And
it's a lot better to see the product.
yes,
You know.
you will buy. I've had times, if I call them and don't go there, they'll buy 10% of what they will. But I'm sitting there with the candy store open.
Yeah, well, smart. Which brings up, you received the Small International Import-Export Company of the Year award
For the state of Oklahoma
For the state
and
of
the
Oklahoma.
Southern District.
Okay, well, congratulations.
That was neat.
That's great. Now, you just returned from quite a lengthy trip.
I'm working on my bucket list. As you get older, you got to push your bucket list. You're never going to get them done.
That's true. That's true.
And so we have. I've been to the Amazon this year, and then went to the Philippines early this spring, and then I went to the Amazon. Of course, I've been to Brazil a lot, but in the southern part. And so I worked 14 days down there, and then flew up there for 6 days to Manaus.
Manaus,
They're right in the middle of the river. Had a wonderful time. And then I just got back from walking a third of the way up Mount Everest in Nepal. Flew into Singapore, Singapore, Malaysia, and then spent 12 days in Nepal, and then flew and went 2 or 3 days to Hong Kong.
What's the most interesting place you've ever been?
The most beautiful place I've ever been is, I just come back from Nepal, the Himalayas.
Really?
I've had more people I had an old man tell me that one time, and I didn't believe him, but it is, the Himalayas are indescribable. There's no roads up there. You're walking above the helicopters that are flying below you. And I walked for 2 days like it would have killed me, you know? And then I found out you could rent a horse. No horse about this tall, but he was a sure-footed little son of a gun, and, you know, that was a good deal. So I could ride on the horse, and they were worried about me because they said, "Oh, hold on," but I could just ride and take pictures and have a good time.
Oh, that's great. The National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association and its Alumni Association are very important to you.
Yes. I would not have ever finished my college education if it hadn't been for Copenhagen School putting the money. That's the reason they had the program that second year, my third year when I went to Southeastern Oklahoma State University. And since then it has become not kosher. They more or less forced cigarettes and tobacco out of, and they took $1 million out. And so as part of the Alumni Association, we worked very hard at raising scholarships. And last year, I think we give $30,000, $30,000 to $35,000.
Great, that's great.
And we're working on getting it up to 50.
And you've also donated saddles for raffles to make money for. You work a lot of the time. Sylvia Mahoney, good friend of yours, said that you were one of the silent alumni that is always working to discover new ways to raise funds to support rodeo.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. Complimentary.
Oh, very. Where do you live today?
Durant, Oklahoma.
Right. And you have a ranch?
Small one, yes, around about 100 head of mama cows.
You're not married?
No.
Okay. You have children?
Have children. I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. And last year, my 10-year-old granddaughter was the #1 in the state of Texas in her division in gymnastics.
Oh, really?
She doesn't go to school. She homeschools, and that's all she works at. She wants to represent the United States at the Olympics.
That's her passion.
Yeah, and she is. Of course, it's like bull riding. You're only one injury away from not being good, you know. But
Well,
she's been very, very blessed.
Well, that's great. And your son lives in Canada.
Yeah, he
And-
lives in Paducah,
Okay.
and hopefully I'm going to. He's going to come back and try to work with me in the company and see how it goes.
Good.
That's
Good.
the plan. I have a brand new project
Oh.
that I was just started this year, and I'm really excited about it. And it's called MITA.
What?
MITA, M-I-T-A,
Mida.
Made in the Americas.
Oh.
And I went to Brazil, I'm gonna go to Argentina, and a lot of this stuff that we're making out of the Orient, I'm making down there with Cowboys, factories that have been in for 35 years. They cost $2 or $3 more, but it's not a Chinese product. And on all my American stuff, I put the Liberty Bell, made in America by people paying U.S. taxes. But there's certain things that we can't do to compete in the United States with China and the Orient. But Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia can. And I'm really, if the good Lord gives me another 10 years to work in my industry, I will make that a big deal, I believe.
That's wonderful. That's quite ingenious, actually, Jerry.
You know, and the product is better. It's made by Cowboys. They're not going to be shootouts.
Yeah. Well, and they understand the need for it.
Yes.
You're talking about the braiding and the.
And like bits and spurs and metal products and stuff. The braiding I still do. I've never taken away from my American housewives.
Oh, that's all done in.
That's still done in the United
US.
States
Okay.
here.
A lot of letters were written for you to be in the RHS, in the Rodeo Historical Society. But Jerome Robinson said it best, and this is what he said. It is my observation that the cherished characteristics of the American cowboy, individualism, honesty, determination, and perseverance, while displaying humility, are the same characteristics Jerry Beagley exhibited through his career.
I'm very, very humbled by the letters that I got. And that's going to be one of my most treasured things. I told Brian, my boy, that I wanted to get them copied so that he could read them to my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. When
so,
they're old enough.
when they're old enough to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because my daddy and mom taught me the value of a handshake deal, and that your work ethic is important. Daddy told me one time, he says, when you go to a job, he says, you don't have to do twice as much as anybody else, but he says, if you do 10% more, you'll always have a job. Well, I didn't really want a job, but, but the same work ethic. I haven't worked for anybody since I was 18 years old.
But you've worked.
I've worked, yes.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
You work
working for
harder.
yourself means you get to pick which 18 hours a day you want to
Yeah,
work.
right, right. Uh-huh. What does this induction mean to you that you're going to have tomorrow night
Oh.
into the Rodeo Hall of Fame?
I used to come down here when they first started having the rodeo in Oklahoma City. That was our Christmas. And we would come 3 or 4 days to the rodeo.
Mhm.
And actually, this little hotel run down now up here used to be the Ramada.
Mhm.
And that's where we stayed.
Mhm.
And I would walk, then when I got old enough that they would trust me and my friends that we were with, they would say, well, why don't you go down to the Cowboy Hall of Fame, basically get out of our hair probably, you know. And so we would walk down here and they give us $1.25, whatever it cost to get in. And we would go in, and that's when they had all the rodeo cowboys were here also, their displays.
Mhm.
And I always dreamed of being here. You know, I don't even, Mom told me I could make the NFR, but I don't, if I'd asked her if I could make the Hall of Fame, I don't even think she could have fathomed that.
Well, you never know about moms.
Yeah.
You never know about moms. Thank you so much, Jerry, for spending this time with us and telling us your story. It's a pleasure to know you.
Thank you. Likewise, you do a lot for rodeo by recording all this, your wonderful articles and stuff like this. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you.